Hello friends, today we're going to look at a poem from the early 1900s and it's called The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. So it's a modernist poem by the poet TSEliot, who's also famous for writing a Possum's Book of Practical Cats, which you may know because it was turned into the Broadway musical Cats. But Eliot was born in the States and then moved to Great Britain, and he has a really interesting take on life through his character, J. Alfred Prufrock. So it's not really exactly a love song like you might imagine. So this is not the sweet romance that we might be expecting. So the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, because it's modernism, embraces a lot of the themes of modernism: alienation, disillusionment, almost a loss of self and identity and community. So we'll look at that. Probably influenced by war and some other things going on in the early 20th century. So the poem starts out with an epigraph from Dante's Inferno, and the epigraph is written in Italian, and it's from this character in the 8th level of Dante's Inferno, which is hell. And the character is saying, you know, if I thought that you would ever go back to the real world, not the afterlife, not hell, I would never tell you my story. But since there's no chance of you actually telling my story, I'll let you in on the secret. So it kind of starts out like that. So you've got that darkness and that sense of concern about what people think. So here's the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. So I'm going to stop after each stanza because it's a pretty complicated poem, but this guy's just kind of saying, come along, let's go chill, let's go talk and visit, let's go wander. So some wandering. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Who's Michelangelo? So Michelangelo is a great painter, not just the Ninja Turtle. And this phrase is repeated a lot. Women, beautiful women wandering around talking about art. So like kind of sophisticated women, maybe high-class women. I always imagine them walking through an art museum, but that's just me. So the speaker continues. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, linger upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon the back of soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. So we have the evening compared to, or the fog compared to maybe a cat. Sounds kind of like some of the other things going on in Eliot's work. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face for the faces, to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time for 100 indecisions, and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. There will be time for indecisions. So a lot of procrastination. It sounds a little bit like Ecclesiastes, a time to be born, a time to die, that sort of thing. But the guy's definitely dealing with some putting things off. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And indeed, there will be time to wonder, do I dare? Do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say, how his hair is growing and thin. My morning coat, my collar mounted firmly to the chin. My necktie, rich and modest, asserted with a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions which a minute will reverse. So a lot of self-consciousness, if you've ever thought to yourself, well, is this just the right thing? Is this just the right way I want to look? Like, I want to influence people's opinions of me. So he's really self-conscious and worried about the bald spot in the middle of his hair. So even though Eliot wrote this when he was a very young man, like early 20s, he's kind of embracing that midlife or whenever people go bald situation, worried about time. For I've known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I've measured out my life in coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music from the farther room. So how should I presume? Or how should I go on? So I've measured out my life in coffee spoons sounds like such an inconsequential way to measure your life. Here's a day. Here's a day. Here's a day. Here's a day. Kind of depressing if you're going through life, measuring out your life in coffee spoons. And I've known the eyes already, known them all. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pen, and I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, and how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? And how should I presume? So perhaps he feels trapped like a scientific specimen, like an insect on a wall. And the butt ends and spitting, all that sounds kind of negative, or maybe associated with smoking, but how should I presume? He keeps asking, how do I go on, or how do I make this assertion other than just with the pin on my clothes? Okay. And I've known the arms already, known them all. Arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight down with light brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrap about a shawl. And should I then presume? And how should I begin? So homeboy is studying some women's arms right here. Those must be the prettiest arms ever. Smelling that perfume. Shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows? Little self-reflection there, lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows. That should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. I love this part because I think it's an allusion to Hamlet, where he says, if like a crab I should go backwards. And he's talking about, and this guy's saying that, man, it's too bad I can't go back. Like a crab, backwards. And the afternoon, the evening sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep or tired, or it malingers, stretched out on the floor here beside you and me. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head grow slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. So, J. Alfred Prufrock here is really worried, and I think that's one of his most important moments. Shall I have the moment, should he force this moment, strength to force this moment to its crisis? I like to tease my friends or students too, that this is his moment. Like, should he get out of the friend zone? Should he make his feelings known? Should he leap forward in the universe in some sort of way based on his own volition and activity? But he doesn't do that at this point. He imagines more John the Baptist's head brought in upon a platter, which was the result of a really beautiful girl dancing for a king in a biblical story, and she's so fine, as my students would say, that the king says, girl, you can have anything you want. And encouraged by her mother, she says, bring me the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And he does. So there's another story for you to look up. But J. Alfred Prufrock, who doesn't mention himself by name, but is in the title, he says he was afraid. So after tea and cakes and ices, he doesn't seem to force the moment to its crisis. He says, and would it have been worth it all, after the cups, the marmalade, and the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me? Would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to squeeze the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come for the dead, come back to tell you all. I shall tell you all, if one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what I meant at all. That is not it at all. And would it have been worthwhile after all? Would it have been worthwhile after the sunsets and the dooryards and the sprinkled streets, after the novels, after the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor, and this and so much more? It is impossible to say just what I mean. But as if a magic lantern threw the nerves and patterns on a screen, would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl and turning toward the window, should say, "That is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all." So I think he's really worried about rejection or misunderstanding, and he's so nervously focused on these external details about the snacks and the refreshments and the external beauty. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I am an attendant lord, one that will do just as well of progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, curious, and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse, at times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost at times, the fool. So he's referencing Hamlet, a Shakespearean character or tragic hero who really also struggles with action and overthinks and gets lost in his own thoughts sometimes, so much that he doesn't take action. And then it also seems to be a reference to Polonius, a character from that play, who is quite a bit of a chatty fool and suffers for it. I grow old, I shall wear the bottom of my trousers rolled. So I don't know what this means, but maybe as we get old we do goofy things like roll up our pants, and bodies shrink, and pants get too long. I don't know. Maybe it's just bad fashion. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair out of the waves blown black, when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by sea girls wreathed in seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. So he doesn't even think the mermaids would sing to him. And sometimes sea women are, associated with sirens, so even the sirens don't care about him. So I think he feels very lonely and isolated and sees just a grim end to life, a lack of connectivity. Doesn't ever make his move, he's stuck in the friend zone. So it is sort of a dismal poem. It's lovely in the way that it's set up and in the repetition, the rain, the women come and go, talking to Michelangelo. But he's pretty depressed. So if you're feeling like Alfred Prufrock, you might want to go do something to make yourself feel a little bit better about life. But that's it in a nutshell. I hope you enjoy, and if you have questions or comments, post them below and I'll do the best that I can. Thanks.